Hey everybody, welcome back. So today I figured I would finally sit down and tell you all about the major medical issue that I had a couple months ago now. So it is literally the worst pain that I've ever felt in my entire life. No joke. So I want to tell you about this because if you ever experience something like this, I want to put it out there how I got over it, because I feel like a lot of the information that I was reading online was just way off. Like it just wasn't what was going to work for me. So bear in mind, kind of keep this story tucked away. If you ever experience anything like this, these are the steps that you can follow to hopefully avoid an entire month of just pure torture like I did. So it started on a Sunday at the beginning of February. I think it was the first Sunday in February or the last Sunday in January, right around there. We were in the truck and I woke up. We were 100 miles from home and I just kind of had a little twinge in my back, which is no big deal. Sometimes, my back will be a little bit sore or whatever, but it's always just just kind of get up and move around and everything's all good. But that day, just a little bit of a twinge, literally a 1 on the pain scale. No big deal. We got home. It kind of continued throughout the day and into Monday. Monday, it was a little bit more intense. It was kind of the lower back instead of just one pinpointed spot. And it was still not bad though. I just figured oh, maybe I'm getting some sort of cramping or something, hormonal related or something like that. And by Tuesday morning, it was a little bit painful to bend and stuff. But I was still oh, I probably just did something to it, slept wrong or whatever. So fast forward to Thursday, we're in Sacramento at that point, and it was decently painful. It was a 4 or 5, and I was pretty uncomfortable for most of the day. And toward the late afternoon, we were just chilling in the truck waiting for our load to be ready. And I remember just laying down, I was watching some Netflix, and I just felt this, it was almost like a hand just kind of slithered into my lower back, and I could just feel it kind of sitting there, and as if the fingers were moving a little bit, and then it just suddenly wrenched and just clenched my entire muscle, just spasmed so bad. I screamed, and it was just shocking. It took my breath away. I could not speak or do anything other than just that scream and then just shallow breathing. It was so intensely painful. And it went from 4 or 5 to an immediate 12 off the scale. So I was oh shit, I can't move, because any time that I would even try to literally move a muscle, I could feel that hand, just kind of getting ready to clench again. And I was terrified to even move because of the way that I knew my brain knew just don't do it because I can't take it, It took me, whenever they called to say that our load was ready, it took me 15 minutes just to manage to get from laying in the bed to standing up. And then I, of course, had to keep working for the rest of the week. So cut to Saturday, and I'm in Arizona, and I had to get out of the truck to fuel. And I got out, and I'm pumping, there's a gas tank on either side of the truck. So you have to walk around to start both tanks, pumps going. And I got to the front of the truck to start the pump on the satellite side. And I just thought I can't, I can't do it. I literally cannot move. But my husband was sleeping at the time. There are all these other people around, all these truckers. And I'm I can't just stand here. Like, there's a line waiting for, the pumps. So I was literally just bawling, pumping the fuel. And then I had to get back up into the truck and I couldn't do it. Like, there's two steps and they're pretty much like knee high each step, at least on me because I'm pretty short. And just the act of like moving my leg from the ground up to the step was almost impossible. Like, I just was like bawling. And then once I got back in the truck, it occurred to me that I needed to take the dogs out. And I was like, I'm gonna die. So I got back in the truck, I pulled onto the ramp and just like, pulled off to the side of the ramp, and I had to like take them out. And again, it took me like 10 minutes just to manage to get back up into the truck. And I think at that point I had like 5 more hours that I needed to drive. And I was just so achingly uncomfortable for like, I had been that way for like the past 3 days, just like super uncomfortable whenever I'm like in any sort of like stationary position, laying down, sitting, whatever. Like, I just couldn't stand it. Like, it felt like my skin was just crawling with like nerves, So I spent the entire drive just like crying while I was driving, because I felt like I just couldn't take it. So then on Sunday morning, so basically 1 whole week later after the pain had originally started, I woke up and we were in Oklahoma and it was my turn to drive. And I needed to get us home by like 11 p.m. that night. And this was in the morning. And I got up and I just started screaming as soon as I moved. And I was like, babe, I can't drive. Like, I literally cannot do it. Like, the thought of having to sit in the seat for another 11 hours, like, I was just like, I can't do it, and this is the crappy part about our job is that, it doesn't do us any good to be stuck in another state, having to try to find an in-network hospital there or whatever. And it was just like, all right, well, he's been driving all night, and he's out of hours, and now we are stuck with an impossible choice. So basically, I did not drive on Sunday, and he had to get us home. So he stayed up for over 24 hours to get us home, because I couldn't. Half the time I sat up in the passenger seat, but it was so uncomfortable. Like, I would sit there, I would try to go back to the bed, I would come back up there. Like, it was just the most uncomfortable thing. So we get home Sunday night, like super late. We got home finally at like 2 a.m. And he was just like, all right, we can either go to the ER now or the urgent care in like 5 more hours. So I was like, screw it. I don't want to have like an ER bill. I'll just lay down. We'll go to the urgent care. So we went to the urgent care the next morning, and I got a complete idiot. He wasn't listening to any of my symptoms. Like, he wasn't listening to anything, because I had done my own research and I felt like it was probably some sort of nerve pain. It could have been sciatica. It could have been something else, but I felt like there was something to do with the nerves, either in my lower back or my legs or something. And he's like, well, I think you just like pulled a muscle. Here's some muscle relaxers. And I was like, thanks. That's like freaking phenomenal. Like, I was so annoyed. I filled the prescription. I came home. I'm going to sneeze. So filled the prescription, came home, took a pill, and it literally did nothing. So when was it? The next day, yes, the next day, my sister-in-law, who is also a like nurse practitioner, like a nurse with her doctorate. I don't know what the hell that is, but regardless, like someone who can prescribe medication. She prescribed me some more medication, which was like a anti-inflammatory type of thing. So I started taking that and it wasn't doing anything. So then the next day she got me an appointment with another doctor, just like a primary care doctor, because interestingly enough, my own primary care doctor basically said, I don't want to see you for it. So I was like, great, time to find a new one because you are the worst. So I went to this other doctor and they basically said like, yeah, it sounds like nerve pain, but there's basically nothing that we can do other than just give you some more medication, because in order to find out which nerve it is or whatever, you need imaging. And they had taken x-rays like at the urgent care, but really the x-rays aren't going to tell you anything about nerves, or even like muscles. So they're like, your insurance is not going to really want you to do an MRI until you've gone through all of this other like steps of trying to cure the issue. And we did have the option of just like paying out of pocket, which we were going to do. But the doctor said like basically like it wouldn't even do you any good. So we kept that in our back pocket to do. But anyway, he gave me some more medicine. And he offered me some like super strong stuff. And I was like, no, I have to go back to work. This is like on Tuesday, I'm like, I have to go back to work. There's like, I just have to, like, I can't take the stronger stuff whenever I'm on the road. So he's like, oh, I think you need to take some time off. And I was like, no, I think not. Because I was just like convinced, like, I'm going to go back to work. And then it just kept getting worse. Like it had gone from like a level 4 to 5 to now it was like at a 7 and getting more intense, even though I was taking the medication. So a lot of the things that I read online said that people went to like chiropractors or acupuncture to help these things. So I made an acupuncture appointment, but went to the chiropractor first because he could take me first. So went to the chiropractor. And they did like a lot of different things. Like I laid on like a table that like had this like thingy that like rolled under the table. It felt very weird. Then I like sat in this like chair that kind of had like a little bit of like a TENS sensation to it. And then he took me in a room and like used like, I couldn't see what he was doing. My husband saw him though, but like it almost felt like a mallet just like hammering into my back. And everything that I've read said that going to the chiropractor should not hurt at all. This was so painful, like incredibly painful. And it wasn't even like inside, like my muscles and like my back that was hurting. It was my actual like skin. Like my actual skin just felt like he was like pinching it and like squeezing it. And I was like, this is so painful. So it was like a 2-hour, I think, like session with a lot of different things done. And this was on the 13th of February. And so came back home, still not feeling good. Still taking tons of muscle relaxers that were not helping. Every time that I would like go to sleep, I would wake up with that like kind of finger sensation. And as soon as I would open my eyes, that like clenching would happen and it would just take my breath away. So it was horrible to sleep. It was horrible to sit up. Like I wasn't eating. It was the worst. So fast forward to about 2 a.m. on Valentine's Day, I woke up to go pee. And whenever I finally stood up, because it was taking me about 5 to 10 minutes every time that I needed to get out of bed and get back into bed, just because of how slowly I had to move, I stood up and just immediately like collapsed down like onto the bed. Like the pain was so intense. I just like screamed. My husband freaked out and everything was just not good. So we ended up going to the emergency room early Valentine's morning. And that was super fun. That was like exactly how I wanted to spend my Valentine's Day. Clearly. And the crazy part is that whenever we were getting dressed to go there, he saw my back and he's like, dude, your entire back is like black. Like it was black and blue and purple with like bruises, basically from like my bra line all the way to my tailbone, just like black and blue. And it was not there before the chiropractor. So all of that is from the chiropractor doing whatever the hell he was doing back there, it literally felt like just a mallet on my back. So I don't know what kind of voodoo that was, but I will never be going back to that chiropractor or probably any other, because that was just not what I needed. So at the ER, they gave me a shot form of a medicine that I had already been taking in one arm, and then they gave me a shot of morphine in the other arm. And they were basically just like, at this point, we can only try to suppress the pain and just hope to make you more comfortable, because there's nothing else that we can do until the MRI machine comes on, because they had to like warm it up. So I took those, and it was maybe like an hour later. I was just sitting there like trying to like chill out. And at the time that I walked in there, my pain was like an 11. By the time that the morphine and stuff started kicking in, it was like maybe like a 9. And the funny thing was that the doctor that was like helping me or whatever looked exactly like a like clean, healthy version of Macaulay Culkin. So I was kind of like thinking in my head this whole time, like, oh my God, the Home Alone kid is is working on me. So it was like funny. I was having this like dialogue in my head about how funny that was. And I was like working myself up to like ask him if he'd gotten that before, which I'm sure he has. But anyway, my husband was just talking to me, we were having a little conversation. And then I was just kind of like, I feel like a little bit of heartburn, and boom, within like 30 seconds of saying that, I couldn't breathe at all. Like I thought I was dying. It was intensely scary. And he was like running around trying to get anybody to come in and help me. The doctor like came in and was just like, oh, I'm going to send somebody in. And I'm literally there like, like that, and I'm like, can somebody hurry? So they gave me this like thing to drink to calm everything down. They laid me in the bed, because until then I was just like kind of sitting up in a chair in the room. And then it happened again. And it was even more intense that time around. People came in and were like drawing blood. They came in and did like x-rays of my chest and stuff to make sure that nothing was going on in there. And like I think I was like so dehydrated or something also that like whenever they tried to take my blood, they had to try it in like 3 different places, because literally nothing was coming out. It was like everything was just dry inside my veins. So that was really fun and fresh. And so after it calmed down again, it happened again. And every time that it happened, like I just like I started to black out because I couldn't breathe, and everything just kind of like just got further away, everything. And like, I could hear my husband being like, are you still with me? Are you still with me? But it's like, I couldn't even respond. And it sounded like he was like 8 million miles away. So it was super scary. Like, I don't think I've ever been that scared, of any sort of like event in my life. So that was not fun. So that was really, really great. So after that, they finally got everything like calmed down. They thought it was just like a reaction to all the different medications at once. So basically after that, like they brought my pain down to like a 7. And they're like, with as much medicines as we've pumped you with, and especially the morphine, you should be feeling no pain right now. But the pain was still super high. And they're like, we can't do anything else. We'll do, the imaging, but then you just got to like go home and wait, and, we'll send everything to your primary, and you can go back tomorrow or later, today. And they'll figure everything out, because you're not like in life-threatening danger right now. So it's best to just not incur the extra expense of staying. So we went home still in a lot of pain. And meanwhile, that whole day, the chiropractor was calling like all day long, like, oh, you need to come back for another visit. You need to come back. And my husband was like, dude, we just got out of the emergency room, probably because of going to see you. Like, we think, the emergency room doctors think, and my primary doctor thinks that whatever happened at the chiropractor like aggravated everything 10 times more, and that's how I ended up in the emergency room. Because that took the pain to a whole new level. And then the fact that my entire back was just covered in bruises and stuff was just not cool. So he was still very insistent, like, you need to come back, you need to come back. And I really think that he just wanted the money. So we canceled all of our other appointments with him, refused to go. We canceled the acupuncture appointment because after that whole debacle, I was like, I'm not going to try any other like crazy type of things. I'm just going to do whatever like the real doctors tell me to do. No shade to chiropractors. I'm sure that there are a lot of good ones out there, but I don't think that this one had my best interests in mind, even though he had amazing reviews. So, went back to my primary doctor, got the imaging results, basically couldn't tell what was causing it. They're like, it could be sciatica, it could be, some sort of muscle that is like cramped onto a different nerve that we just can't tell. Like everything was inconclusive. So that really sucked. And then he again was like, do you want the, like higher dosage medication, like the opiates? And I was like, I really don't want to take them. Because again, even though now we were like out of work for the whole week because we had to call in and just be like, she can't make it back. I still did not want to take them because I hate the thought of like, getting hooked on anything like that, because everyone always makes it seem like, oh, these are like very addictive and stuff. So he gave me a prescription for Norco, and which is hydrocodone and acetaminophen mixed. And I took one of them, and honestly, it did almost nothing for me. Like my pain was at like pretty much constant level 8 or 9, and it brought it down to about a 7. And nothing more. Like I was still in so much intense pain. It was difficult to do anything. I went several days without even showering because I literally could not lift my legs up and over the bathtub to get into the shower. My husband was having to put on my shoes and my pants and my underwear for me because I could not bend. I couldn't reach. Even sitting and like doing anything was just so uncomfortable. I lost like 12 pounds just because I wasn't eating. It was just difficult to do anything. And it really sucked to feel that helpless. And the whole time, like, it was so stressful. Like both of us were so stressed out because we basically didn't know if I would ever be able to return to work, which doesn't really fit our like 5-year plan. It would be, ideal to not have to work within the next few years, at least not in the way that we are now, but we need to continue working to make that happen. So it was very stressful. My husband was like, okay, if you can't come back to work, I need to figure everything out and see how I can, make everything work. And it was really, really like intense. It like crying all the time, like me, not him, but me. It was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. And then on top of it, just this immense pain that just would never abate. And the muscle spasms, like I was taking so much muscle relaxers and they were doing nothing. Like, I don't understand how people get hooked on muscle relaxers because they apparently don't work for me at all. Like I thought, ooh, I'm going to feel like really good. Like it'd take my mind off things. And it was like I was eating like Pez or something. Like there was literally no difference. And even taking the opiates, like barely any difference. It would be like having some period cramps and taking like a little bit of Midol, like I feel like Midol actually works better on period cramps than the Norco worked on this pain. And everyone kept telling me like, you're getting like really intense drugs, and if it's not making the pain go away, then there's something very wrong here. And that was like, well, thanks for telling me that and making me worry even more. So that was amazing also. So now we're at the end of the second week of pain, and I went to I'm trying to think, like, dude, I went to probably 5 or 6 different facilities and doctors in the month that I was off of work. So we're coming to the end of week 2, and I went to a spine specialist, and she was a lot more knowledgeable, I feel like, than the other people that I went to. Not to their, like, not to throw them under the bus, but everybody has their own, like, area of expertise. And she took a look at everything and all the imaging, and she's like, so I still can't tell you exactly what is wrong. If you want to truly find out exactly where the pain is originating from, what is causing the pain, it's going to require like some very in-depth, invasive kind of testing and procedures to figure that out. And she's like, I don't think it's worth it. She's like, here's what the road ahead is going to look like. You're either going to get better within the next 3 to 6 weeks, and you'll just go about your life and, nothing will change. Or you're going to be in chronic pain for the next 6 months. And then after that point, then we can look into doing the more invasive procedures. But she's like, until you've been dealing with the pain for that long, I don't feel that it's worth the risks that you take on by doing those procedures, until we know that the pain is just not going to go away on its own. So I was like, great. This is why, like, I hate going to the doctor. I hate it because you never like get the answer that you really want to get, which is you're going to be fine. There's always like doom and gloom, which is hilarious, but she was really, really good at what she did. And she's the only person that recommended physical therapy. And she's like, you're taking the medicine. It's not helping. It's not getting better on its own. It seems to be intensifying. This is what I recommend you do. Do the physical therapy, 3 times a week for as long as you can stay out of work. And if you start feeling better, you can go back to work, but you still need to continue the physical therapy on the days that you're home. So I was like, cool, let's try that. So we went to the physical therapy place, I think later on that same day, and I could barely walk whenever I went in there. Like there were old people, like 80, 90-year-old people in there, more mobile than I was. I could barely walk. Everything was intensely painful. And my lady that was assessing me, she's like, I can see that you are barely keeping your head above water here. And I was like, yes, exactly. So she assessed me, we set up some appointments, and basically what I did was just come in and do some walking on the treadmill to warm up, and then just a lot of stretches and kind of muscle exercises and a lot of deep tissue work and stuff. And it was so painful, so painful. But by the end of the 4th session, I was already oh, I can move a little bit. It still hurts, but it's more of a level 5 hurt as opposed to a 7, 8, or 9. And by the end of the 2nd week, so 2 full weeks of doing the physical therapy, which I think was 7 sessions in total, I was okay, I feel good enough to go back to work. It was just that. Everything was just I went from 100 back down to okay, I'm about 20%, of pain and nastiness, just totally dropped it down. Went back to work and continued going to physical therapy for 3 weeks after that. And by the end of it, I was totally 100% fine. I can move around better now than I could before everything happened. Just doing the strengthening exercises and stuff and all the stretching just helped in general, everything. So if you are ever in this kind of pain, if you ever experience it, physical therapy is the one and only thing that actually helped and did something. I read so many things online from people saying, do this and do that and take this and take that. The amount of money that we spend We were out of work for 3 weeks plus that first week of just being in complete pain while we were still working. Um, and then all of the doctor visits, the emergency room visit, the chiropractor, all the physical therapy, like it was a lot. It was a lot, but luckily we have really good insurance, so that helped a lot. But I could have saved a lot of aggravation and annoyance and expense if I had just went to physical therapy, or at least gotten that recommendation from anybody whenever I first started looking this up. So if you're experiencing this, try physical therapy first before you go through all of this other BS, because there's just a lot of not necessarily great information depending on what your situation is out there. So even after all of this, the doctors still don't know what caused it at all. They don't know where even the pain was really originating from. My entire low back and all the way down both of my legs, basically the entire lower half of my body, was just in incredibly intense, immense, ridiculous pain. And without that like intensive further, like investigation into it, there's no way to tell what caused it. Thank God that it went away. I think personally that what happened is that while I was sleeping overnight on that first Sunday, Saturday night, I think that something happened to like twist me in some way in my sleep or something. Like maybe we went over a particularly rough road or something, and it just messed up my back. That's what I think happened, but there's no way of knowing. I'm just really, really glad that it went away finally. But what we ended up doing is in the truck, we had like a traditional like spring mattress, and we threw that out after this. We bought a like really thick memory foam mattress, and then bought another thick memory foam topper to go over it. So now being in the bed is like being cradled in a really like cushy cloud. So whenever we go over any bumps or anything, like I don't feel them. Like I can feel the rumbling, but like the actual bed doesn't bounce me up and down. Whereas before, that spring mattress was bouncing me up and down. And I think that something like that is what caused this, because there are times where the road is so rough that I would literally lift up off of the bed and slam back down, because it was just so like intense, and the spring, like creates that anyway. So the memory foam mattress, I feel like helped a ton. So that's something to look into if you do ever experience this, is change up your mattress. We also bought for the truck the Purple brand seat cushion thingies, because we did have just like regular like foam seat cushions. I never really liked them a whole lot though, and this Purple one like works so good. It was stupid expensive, but for not having to hopefully worry about anything like this in the future, it was so worth it. I also try to just keep up with some of the physical therapy exercises, just to kind of keep everything like very like limber back there, because I'm terrified of this happening again, like terrified, because it was so bad. So bad. I just hope that I never have to go through it again, because if I do, I'm just gonna quit. I'm just gonna lay down and be like, that's it. It's not worth it. So that's what we did for that. That was my basically like 4 weeks in hell. And oh man, like I woke up one of those days, I think it was like on the second week, and I was feeling so guilty for not having any content to put up, and just feeling bad and stuff. And I was like, today isn't like super, super bad. I'll like just film some stuff so that I have some stuff to put up. Dude, after I filmed, I think like 3 or 4 videos that day, it only took me like maybe an hour. And I was in so much pain after like just sitting here filming that. And then after that, I was just like, no, I'm not going to film the rest of the time. But that's another thing, is know your limitations. Whenever you're not feeling good, don't force yourself to do something. that you know you shouldn't be doing. Just take it easy. And also, I feel like, relying on like the medications, if they're not really helping you, I would say don't even bother to take them, because like I don't feel like taking any of the muscle relaxers was helping me. I don't think it was worth it to keep like taking that in. And I'm not one of those like people that is like, don't take any medicine. I love me some medicine, but if it's not helping, I don't feel like it's worth it to keep like bombarding your body with it. Because whenever you really do need something like that to work, maybe it won't work as good, So that's that. I think that I kind of covered everything. I know I probably glossed over a lot, because there was a lot in that 4 weeks of just like a lot to deal with. And so many of you checked up on me, just like privately and stuff. And I so much appreciate that, because it was just nice to know that like, even though I was slacking on my channel and stuff, like people were still, just like, hey, are you doing okay? So, really, really appreciate that. I am so thankful. I'm so thankful for all of your support and kindness. And, I think that's it. If you have any questions, about any of it, like if you've experienced this pain or whatever, if I can help, I'll give you my suggestions down below, or whatever it is. So there you go. I will catch you guys next time. Bye.